This week in Jamaica Now. Jamaica on high alert for Ebola virus, but the health minister has conceded that the country is not 100% prepared. And the minister has defended his stewardship, saying he is competent. Opposition calls for emergency centers to deal with Chikungunya outbreak. Parliament passes changes to the ganja laws, and dispute between public passenger operators and state bus company to go to the Constitutional Court. The details of these and other stories coming up after the break.
Reach anyone, anywhere in the world with the Gleaner online. Rich media, interactive banner ads, dynamic page wraps. Increase, target, track.
I'm Caroline Brown, and this is Jamaica Now. The Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, is conceding that Jamaica is not fully prepared to respond to the Ebola virus should it reach here. According to Dr. Ferguson, even with the best of will, the government is facing financial constraints. According to Dr. Ferguson, some supplies are now available, but not at all institutions. He says a special treatment center has been established and all hospitals have identified isolation rooms. And Dr. Ferguson says a major shipment of supplies is expected on the island shortly. And the government says additional staff has been put in place at the island's ports as Jamaica is on high alert for the Ebola virus. Last week, the U.S. confirmed its first case of the deadly virus in Dallas, Texas. Ebola is a severe, often fatal illness in humans. The virus is transmitted to people from wild animals and spreads in the human population when bodily fluids like the sweat, blood or semen of an infected person comes into contact with an uninfected person. More than 3,000 persons have died from the virus in West Africa. The opposition wants the government to set up emergency centers to treat Jamaicans who have contracted the Chikungunya virus. It's reported that public health facilities are under pressure from the increased number of persons who are complaining about flu-like symptoms. The opposition spokesman, Dr. Ken Baugh, says the situation may escalate as the virus continues to spread and more people become infected. It is for that reason, he says, the government should establish emergency centers for diagnosing and treating persons, similar to what obtains in accident and emergency departments in health facilities.
Triage is what we undertake normally in accident and emergency departments or centers, whereby quickly a doctor is delegated to go and screen the patients. If somebody needs a physical examination, they are directed to where to go to have a physical examination. If somebody needs treatment like asthmatic, and it's an emergency, they are directed to the emergency asthmatic treatment center. So it's just a matter of sorting the patients in a way that those who need some focus and some specific attention can get it.
And the embattled Health Minister, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, is defending his stewardship amid mounting criticism of his performance, particularly his handling of the Chikungunya crisis. According to Ferguson, his track record demonstrates progress.
I believe that the evidence and my track record in the last 2.5 years as Minister of Health cannot be challenged, whether for incompetence or as it relates to what we have set out to do.
However, he has acknowledged that it would be the prerogative of the Prime Minister to decide whether to keep him as Minister of Health. Ferguson also maintains that the government has handled the Chik V outbreak consistent with international patterns. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health says there is no shortage of paracetamol tablets and syrup in the public health sector. Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Marion Bullock-Ducasse says the Health Ministry, through the National Health Fund, which manages pharmaceuticals, has an adequate supply of the drugs. According to Dr. Ducasse, regional health authorities have been advised to pay close attention to their inventory management systems, especially in the Chikungunya affected parishes, so that stocks are delivered in a timely manner. In other news, well-known attorney at law and human rights advocate Lord Anthony Gifford wants to see an end to all prosecutions for possession of ganja. Lord Gifford made the remark as he welcomed the passage of legislation in Parliament last week, which will expunge the criminal records of persons convicted for certain offences, including small quantities of ganja. He says for far too long, many poor Jamaicans and members of the Rastafarian communities have been persecuted because of the anti-ganja law. Gifford says he hopes that the government will eventually legalize ganja. And the Ganja Future Growers and Producers Association has welcomed the government's decision to relax the law on the cultivation and distribution of ganja for medical and scientific purposes. This is to be facilitated through amendments to the Dangerous Drugs Act. As part of the reform, a licensing authority is to be set up to regulate the sector.
I'm not sure it's the first conference call, but support of the media in this public education drive. We have to understand from a Jamaican point of view that it can't be, I won't say everybody doing this can't, right? So importantly, we will be out here.
Julian Silvera, the Member of Parliament who has been embroiled in controversy over allegations that he engaged a non-existent company to carry out consultancy work, has dismissed claims that he was involved in any impropriety. It was recently revealed that the Constituency Development Fund had signed off on a contract for consultancy service for a project for the Western St. Mary MP. It was further revealed that the company was only incorporated after the contract was signed. However, the MP says the principal of CRC Business Assistant Limited, Stephen Dunkley, was first registered as a sole proprietor and the company later changed to a limited liability entity. He maintains that he was not involved in any wrongdoing. Public passenger operators have won the first round of their legal battle with the state-owned bus company, the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC. Last week, the Supreme Court granted the Rural Transit Company Limited leave to go to the Judicial Review Court to challenge the decision of the JUTC to commandeer a section of the Mandela Highway. The operators are contending that the move is a breach of their constitutional rights. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune into Power 106 for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Caroline Brown, and before we go, scenes from the University of the West Indies as they attempt to break the Guinness World Record for the longest chain of persons clasping hands in a stance against violence.